Yeah, this gonna be some of my best work.
Now, thankfully, barbershop, that was just a role, but he did work as an insurance agent.
Well, I was doing claims, so I was the person that after you had the wreck, I came in and had to deal with it.
But we know him from TV and movies.
Oh my God, no! Like I wanted things that I could sink my teeth into that I thought people would be like, that is exactly how I know that man.
And that made him a star, a big star who's been making us laugh ever since as a king of comedy.
I take it so personal when you go out on stage. It's literally a connection with somebody trying to make them just let go of their regular stress.
And we've got him for 30 minutes.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Cedric the Entertainer on The Pulse.
Hello.
We are bringing in people who have great careers, doing different things, using their voice for good, having fun. And today, we've got, I often struggle as how you define people who've done so much. So comedian, actor, host. This brother's been on Broadway. I didn't even know that. One of the original kings of comedy, Cedric the Entertainer. How are you, sir?
What's good? I'm pulled up.
I appreciate you taking the time. You were on Broadway?
Yeah. I did a very short run of David Mamet's American Buffalo. It was me, John Leguizamo, and Haley Joel Osment.
Wow, a little bit of everything. So we look back through the background. On The Pulse, we kind of bring people up to speed. And I was looking at how you got into this. How did you get into comedy in the first place?
I mean, I was working at State Farm. I had a regular job, and it was a comedian who was a friend of ours, a mutual friend of the group, was out working, and he would always often like, yo, man, that's funny what you just said. Can I take that? Oh, that's funny right there. Can I take that? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. So he eventually came back and told me that, he felt like I can do comedy. And he signed me up for a comedy competition, kind of showed me how to do the things that I normally say, put it in a routine for me. And I went and I won $500 the first time I did it. So I was hooked in at that point.
And you were an insurance salesman at the time.
Yeah, I was doing claims. So I was the person that after you had the wreck, I came in and had to deal with it.
I hear those stories. It's always amazing. Michael Blackson was working at Domino's in Philly, and someone told him he was funny. Sarah Silverman, Tracy Morgan was just on with us and have similar situations. Y'all have to be a special kind of person when someone says you're funny and you're like, all right, cool, let's go with it.
I mean, at that time, of course, it was starting to be a great, a surgence of comedy. You're talking about late 80s. You had like, the formulation of guys starting to grow. Eddie Murphy was killing it on Saturday Night Live. So he young, he your age. You see somebody 19, 20 killing it, right? You start to have that belief like, oh, I can do that. And so then, then came, like the Wayans brothers and those guys started to do things and be on TV and doing specials, and Robert Townsend. So you started to see more faces, not just on the regular kind of institutional shows, but things that really felt black to you. I can do this without transferring like who I am to fit into the status quo. And so then, of course, the Def Jams and all those things started to come into the atmosphere, and then that's where the opportunity came. So you can look and see people that was examples for you and that at least gave you the courage to go like, well, yeah, I had a job. This dude talking about he coming home with $1,400, $1,500. I'm like, whoa.
It's like, maybe I am funny. Like, I should give this a try.
I'm at least that funny.
That comedy club routine, that's not easy. Like, that's work.
Again, generation I grew up with, when you get booked, you got to drive 8-9 hours to a show. You got to, sometimes you got to stay in some very, very terrible situations, you got to go and do, if you're working for the comedy club circuit back then, you would have to do from 8 to 11 shows to make $300, you know what I'm saying, as an opening act. But, it was one of those things, if you did that 4 times, in a month, then you felt like you made a little money that month. You can pay your bills, you can handle your situation. So that was the hustle.
Was Steve Harvey's show the first big break? What was the big break for you?
I mean, getting on Def Jam, getting on the Apollo, those were really big milestones for, just as a comedian. Like Apollo was first, and went and did the Apollo, got a standing ovation. Was 1-0, never went back until I was a pro. Like I did not take no chances with that Apollo audience. Came to host the Comic View first, and that gave me a little more of a, kind of a household name, especially in the African American community. And so then I was able to go around and tour, and show up in Little Rock and Birmingham and show up and make, a nice amount of money because I was the guy that hosted Comic View. And then, of course, the Steve Harvey Show after that was one that put you on like a kind of national TV platform.
So you're doing the circuit, you get on the TV, you're having success throughout your career. And so there's a lot of different steps to talk about. And then the original Kings of Comedy. And the reason that was such a big thing, at least for me, when I first saw it in all the headlines, was you guys kind of took ownership of your own career. You're one of the first to do that, right? You guys put this together, you controlled the money, that kind of thing.
Yeah. We had a partner that was the promoter, and he was the fifth member of the Beatles, if you will, right? So, but that's the way we did it. He was a young guy out of North Carolina. He put together the tour, and yet we owned the material. We owned who we were. We were all these individual like kind of stars that came together as one super group, and that was rare. We had the model was based off of Super Fest, which was the concerts where, like Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder would be there. That was his concept, was to put like big acts all in one night. But, because we were all individuals, we had to kind of figure out how to operate. And so we started to operate as a super group, as one big thing that went together. And so, all of the guys, we had control of the rights to the film. We had control of, what we made on the stage. And so that's how we end up having the most success.
Were y'all cool like that, for real? Like when you saw it, y'all seemed like brothers out there doing that. Did that grow or was that real?
No, of course, me and Harv, we locked in. We was, because we were doing the Steve Harvey Show at the time, and we'd come up. He had a comedy club in Dallas where he kind of first saw me and put me in the spotlights, and so Harv was my guy, and then me and DL became partners because he was the first host of Comic View, and so when I came in, he handed me the baton, and we did a tour together. And so then we became locked in. And B-Mac was always everybody's favorite dude. And so, as the tour grew, we all grew. I think that at the end of the tour, of course, when money came into play, that's why we never was able to do it again. It's like people kind of got to their individual corners and just kind of like, did their own thing, except, again, and it was hard to get those guys to kind of, those alpha males to lock in and understand that it was about the business,
Right. But the first time when the checks start coming in, oh, okay, like this is not bad. It was sellout tours.
That was a whole nother lifestyle. That was private jets and everybody had suites and it was boss life, man. That Kings of Comedy was something else.
Did you guys realize at the time that you were kind of changing things? Like at that point, and again, we've had a bunch of people on a couple of weeks ago, guys from New Edition were here and telling the stories about you did all this and you did these sellout tours and you're traveling and you made no money. And you guys kind of changed the structure by having control of it.
That was really a great thing. Because it was individuals, of course, that had done like arena tours before us, Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Andrew Dice Clay, that I can remember at the time, but they were all like these kind of individual juggernauts. No one had kind of taken the New Edition approach, the super group, like a bunch of guys together, and we all figured out how we all gonna eat and make money.
Coming up, why he's thankful he got started before all of today's social media drama.
And I could imagine if I lived in the day of the internet, like if it was Twitter and all that stuff, I might have got canceled.